WNST intersecting, and even in the NFL where they're not playing the games right now, the real games are being played off the field. We'll be in Phoenix next week. This guy will be joining us for the NFL owners meetings. Who knows? The Oakland Raiders could be in Las Vegas by the time the Ravens get there this spring. He is Pete Prisco, longtime senior NFL columnist for CBS Sports, and you can follow his journey at Prisco CBS, as well as his Get Off My Lawn series and the Roughing the Passer and all those things that happened during football season. Pete, do you remember when the offseason used to mean that down there in Jacksonville you could just hang out on the beach and just do that sort of thing? There's no offseason anymore, man.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you got to feed the beast on a constant basis. I mean, fans have an insatiable appetite for the NFL, and we have to give it to them. So it's year round. I mean, think about it. We went from Super Bowl to tags and all that stuff, then right to the free combine, then the free agency. Then it's just nonstop. And then you got the owners' meetings, and you got the draft, and you got mini camps, and maybe you breathe in late June, early July.
It is funny how we name winners and losers in all of this, right? Kid gets sent home from the combine, he's in trouble, right? Kid runs the fastest 40 time ever or jumps the highest, we make a big deal about it. But in the end, it's really about money, and it's really about free agents, and it's really about where to allocate those resources. And for the Washington Redskins, I think it all sort of came crumbling down this week. They were the stars of the free agency period, except that it wasn't a good thing.
No, and what happened to Scott McCloughan was a bad look for the Redskins. Now, we don't know the situation, and if he indeed is having those problems again, he needs to get help, and we all hope he gets better and gets the help he needs. But the Redskins shouldn't have piled on. I mean, if they want to get rid of the guy, that's one thing, but you don't pile on. You don't leak out little stuff about his problems, and this is clearly an issue for him. It's been an issue for him for a long time. And you know what? The Redskins probably knew when they hired him that it was an issue, and yet they're leaking out information. Bad look for the Washington Redskins and Dan Snyder.
Well, and then there's the quarterback who doesn't want to be there, right? So we've got the quarterback sweepstakes this time of year, from Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo to where Tony Romo is going to wind up and Jay Cutler. A lot of times these teams at the top of the draft, the bad teams, look at the draft and say, well, we'll just go get our quarterback there. Clearly, that's not really the game plan here this year. It's let's go rehabilitate someone or trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, and we don't even know what he is.
Yeah, and that's why Kirk Cousins, they have to tag him. I mean, the Redskins would be stupid not to tag him. And for Kirk Cousins, 3 years ago, he would have been doing cartwheels getting $24 million a year. So for him to gripe about it is ridiculous. Yeah, you don't want to be tagged. You like to get a long-term deal. And I'm sure the Redskins would be willing to give him a long-term deal. They're just not going to make him a mega contract. And you know what? Kirk Cousins threw a bad interception, played poorly in a bad game late in the season against the Giants, played poorly, threw an interception late in the game when they lost, I think it was at Arizona. I mean, the guy didn't make the plays when he needed to make them, and that's how you're defined if you're a quarterback. So, look, you're getting $24 million, play the season. If you have a good season, the Redskins will come back to you. If he has the same kind of season he had a year ago, the Redskins will come back to him and say, you know what, maybe we were wrong, we should give you the mega contract. He'll eventually get it.
Pete, any of these quarterbacks in any way move you? I mean, from Romo straight on through every RG3, Jay Cutler, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Bortles, and, all of these names that are out there, none of them move me at all. I mean, Garoppolo as well, to say, well, that's a tectonic plate shift. I was won over by the Osweiler thing a year ago. We all know how that turned out, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I thought it was going to be a good deal for them, too, because he was the best free agent on the market, and clearly that doesn't really mean anything. And I look at these quarterbacks. I mean, the Bills, there was all that talk about letting Tyrod Taylor go, and they looked around the landscape, saw the quarterbacks in the draft, saw the quarterbacks in the free agency, and they said, you know what? Our best option is to bring him back. And they did, and that was a smart thing to do. And was Tyrod Taylor the end-all, be-all? No, but he's better than what's out there. And so you look around. Romo would be intriguing to me if I were the Houston Texans. If he gets out on the market, I think you got to go make a play to go get him. Garoppolo, if I'm the Browns, I give up 12 and a 3 and go get Garoppolo. And all that talk about the Patriots aren't going to trade him, that's ridiculous. Give me, and I've asked this 9 billion times on Twitter, nobody can give me a rationale. What's the rationale for keeping him? If you keep him, He's your backup. Tom Brady hasn't missed a game since he hurt his knee.
Well, if you feel like he's special, if Belichick feels like he really is special and that it would be that Montana to Young transition, or, hey, look, Indianapolis thought they had the Manning to Luck transition, and, that's still, in progress. I'm not going to quibble or argue with it right now. But if you really felt like Garoppolo was the guy, and if they're portending that, fine, but if you also wouldn't be willing to give him away if he were the guy. Not for a first-round draft pick.
But Nestor, if he's the guy, then that means you got to boot Brady. And are you looking at anything that Brady has done? Go back a month and a half ago and look what Brady did in the Super Bowl. He's far from done. And if he wants to play 3 more years, what does that do for you? If he's playing 3 more years at the same level, you're going to play Brady. And then you can't keep Garoppolo. If you tag Garoppolo next year, you got $50 million or $47 million on the books. Good luck with that. And if you did, there's no saying that Garoppolo is going to be, coming back to you anyways after you don't tag him. And so if you tag him for a year and then let him go. So, and you lose your leverage. Now's the time to trade him. I think this is all Bill Belichick trying to drive up the price.
He is Pete Prisco. He has been tweeting that many, many times out on Twitter at Prisco CBS. You can follow his journey at CBSSports.com. No one covering the National Football League better and entrenched in all of this stuff. And, meanwhile, we talk about the Patriots. For me, if there's been a winner since the parade that they hosted from 28-3 down and all that stuff that we witnessed in Houston, they've had a pretty good offseason, right? I mean, and who's to argue with them, with Hightower, with anybody, with Jamie Collins, with Chandler Jones, all these guys getting out, they got a wide receiver for Tom Brady to throw the ball to now. It's kind of insane.
They do, and he's a good player, but I'm not so sure I would have given up a first-round pick for him because, but they needed speed. I'll give them that. They need some speed down the field, and he's provided some big plays for the Saints. But a first-round pick is valuable, particularly when you're a team that doesn't have great pass rushers. I know they traded for Coney Ely, but he wasn't very good last year. He had 5 sacks. They don't rush the passer well enough. The thing is, though, Nestor, is Tom Brady, cures your ills, all their ills. And there are ills on that team. People try to portray it that they're not, and they were the number 1 defense, but they didn't play any good offense. And I think they played 1 good offense all year, and that was Arizona early in the season. They played the Steelers without Ben late in the season. But you look at that team, and, they need pass rushers. And so they don't have a first-round pick, and on the second-round pick, that's a problem, I think.
Well, they can get one pretty quickly. All they got to do is give their backup quarterback away, right?
Right. They give away the backup quarterback, get number 12, and get a third-round pick, and next thing you know, you're loaded up, ready to go. You can get a pass rusher at number 12.
Pete, for you with the Ravens, give me a little report card as you see it. The Brandon Williams thing, I'm shocked that he's back because I thought someone would overwhelm him in the same way they didn't really want to lose Kelechi Assembly last year. Rick Wagner, I thought somebody would come along, and certainly the draft doesn't feel like it's rich with linemen and tackles, so it felt like that someone would spend that money. I think Juszczyk was a guy they expected to get back. They didn't expect anybody to overwhelm an H-back, and the 49ers had so much money. It really is a story about who's got the money and who's willing to take it, but I think they're happy about keeping Brandon Williams, right? I know they are. I don't think that they saw that as a huge possibility given their cap issues.
Yeah, they wanted to keep Brandon Williams, and I think, talking to people around the league, when Brandon Williams got out there, the price was really high, and you look at him, he's a 2-down run stuffer. He's not a great pass rusher, so people are more reluctant to pay that big money unless you're the Ravens and you have him, and that makes all the sense in the world for them. I think he's a really good player. I think it was a good move for them. I also like the move to go get Tony Jefferson. I thought that was a good move. You lose Ricky Wagner. That stings, but you're right. You can't keep them all. And we've seen the Ravens. They always do a great job of drafting and replacing. And we've seen them lose a lot of guys in free agency, and they always seem to replace them. It'll be interesting to see how they try to replace Ricky Wagner. I mean, what do they do at right tackle? Who's going to play over there? Is it going to be Hurst? Are they going to let Yonda play over there? Who's going to play over there?
Well, maybe in the draft there's something there, or maybe a veteran free agents to get thrown out. I mean, the Jets threw Mangold out. There are linemen that will be poached off at various points. Meanwhile, the Bengals look like, what are they going to do on their offensive line? You talk about our division. That's been a crazy exodus in Cincinnati right now.
Yeah, and you lose. I thought they would lose Zeitler. I mean, he was going to be overpriced and overpaid. But I was surprised that Whitworth left, and I really was. I thought Whitworth would be one of those guys that stays in Cincinnati his entire career and retires there. The fans love him. But you know what? He took the money, and you can't fault the guy when he does that. Now they got to hope. Remember, a couple of years ago, they drafted a Bowie and Fisher in that draft, and the sole purpose of replacing Whitworth and Andre Smith. Well, Bowie was bad last year, and that was a problem for him, and he's got to get better. I think Westerman will be okay replacing Zeitler at right guard. The question is can Jake Fisher end up replace Andrew Whitworth at left tackle?
Pete, I remember you go back far enough to remember was, Baltimore, Jacksonville, Charlotte, Memphis, all these places were going to get teams and who was going to wind up where. And I think we were looked in a crystal ball a year or two ago, and I'm sure we have in our conversations we have a couple times a year about where the Rams were going to wind up or the Chargers. This Raiders thing, and right now handicapping it, there's nothing that's going to keep them out of Vegas because there's nothing that's going to keep them in Oakland, right?
No, again, I always go back to something that Pete Rozelle, the late Pete Rozelle, told me years and years ago when I was doing the expansion thing. And he said, everything in the NFL will be dictated by stadiums going forward. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, Super Bowls will be awarded by stadiums. They will award franchises in terms of expansion by stadiums, and they will have relocation by stadiums. And I'll be damned if he wasn't right. I mean, if you don't have a stadium that's up to date and it can make you money and generate money, you're going to have problems. The Oakland Stadium was a dump. The San Diego Stadium was a dump. And the bottom line is, if they build a stadium in Vegas, I can't see, and I don't see, the NFL blocking it. So I think you're going to see the Raiders playing in Las Vegas.
It really came a long way, right? I mean, theoretically, with the gambling, and look, we're going over to London playing the Jaguars in September. We're running a trip over there. You can gamble everywhere over there. The Vegas gambling thing in the era of the internet, and obviously the league very tied in with these, fantasy and all the advertising we saw 2 years ago. A team in Vegas, it sounds about right to me, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal anymore, Nestor. It really isn't. I don't think. And, I think you keep hearing, the Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, and some of the other commissioners saying, you know what, they're okay with legalized gambling. I think it's going to get to the point now where you're eventually going to see, parlors on the street corner where people can go up there and actually make a bet. And when they can make a bet, then the tax money goes to the city, the state, and everybody else. I think that wouldn't be a bad thing, So I think we've changed a lot on that in this country. And I think more people are open to it. And I think the Raiders in Vegas. What will be interesting is how they draw their fans. A short plane ride, Southwest from Oakland down to Vegas, and get the old Raider fans. And there's still some Raider fans in Los Angeles that can pop over. But is it the chic, trendy thing to do if you're a high roller? And if I'm the casino, do I want a guy at the stadium for 8 hours rather than sitting in my casino? So there's some interesting, aspects of the move, but I think the league will okay it. They'll eventually play there.
Well, the same thing could be said about the golf course or anything else that they're fly over the Grand Canyon. I mean, Vegas has its temptations, Pete, we know, but, sounds to me like this is, I would bet on it at this point. I know the owners' meetings are coming up in Phoenix next week. Anything big on the docket next week in Phoenix from the owners' meetings?
It's not. There really isn't. I mean, I'm curious to see what they do with the celebrations. I think they need to bring them back in. And I'm in the minority on that, and I know a lot of people hate it, but I always thought it was fun, the fun bunch, and everybody doing, Chad doing his thing back in the day in Cincinnati. I mean, to me, they've taken a lot of the fun out of the game, and I think they're worried about that. And I think eventually this might be the year where they open it back up and allow some celebration.
Yeah, everybody hated Ray Lewis's dance until it's not there anymore. Then you're like, hey, it's another fun league. Pete, appreciate your time as always. I will definitely get off of your lawn and send everybody out to Twitter to follow you at Prisco CBS as well as
CBS my damn lawn, Nestor.
Hey, Pete, love you old cranky SOB. Appreciate you, man. There he goes, Pete Prisco, one of my favorites, absolutely, and one of my favorites to follow on Twitter. When we say no filter, that's my man. I love Pete Prisco. Prisco CBS and at cbssports.com. There he goes with a very, very funny-looking meme on his Twitter. You can find me out at buyatoyota.com, audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world in your mobile device by finding us at WNST.net. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com. And last but never least, any breaking news would happen first on the WNST Tech Service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Of course, Dennis is here Thursday from 3 until 5. It's the SSV on WNST, driving you home. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore Sports.